Hello, my name is Rachel Encarnacion, and this is my story. 7 years ago, I went through a very sad situation in my life. I felt in that moment that I was going to die. It all started one day when I was in my apartment and I started to feel strange pain in my arm. I lived alone with my oldest daughter. At that time, she was barely 1 year old. To be more specific, I remember that I had come home from work at night, very tired, when I suddenly started to feel that pain. The pain was in my right arm, specifically in the wrist. It was very strong and I couldn't hold anything with my hand. I took a painkiller and didn't pay much attention to it because I thought it was something that would go away quickly. I worked in a lottery agency and I didn't do any kind of force. I only worked with computer and I spent the entire day sitting. So at that moment, I couldn't explain where such pain could have come from if I hadn't fallen. Even though I took painkillers to try to cope with the pain, it was very strong and was already getting worse. I couldn't hold anything in my hand, not even a glass of water. Days went by, the pain increased, and I couldn't explain why this was happening to me. I remember that the pain was so strong that I hit my hand against the wall to try to calm my pain in the midst of despair. I cried day and night because I didn't understand what was happening to me. The medications were no longer calming me down, and I was already very desperate. One day, I couldn't take it anymore, and I remembered that while I was getting dressed to go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, I made the decision that before getting to work, I was going to go to the clinic to take medication. When I arrived at the clinic and explained the situation to the doctor that he was on duty, he got a little worried and immediately called for an ambulance and told me that I would have to stay. I remember him telling me not to worry, and I started crying. The doctor told me it was a beginning of a thrombosis. I got scared and started calling my family. I remember crying a lot and couldn't believe that was happening to me. And in the midst of pain at that moment, I only thought that I would be late for work and they were going to fire me. Incredible. The doctor told me that he was going to send me in an ambulance to Nagua. When they received me and began to do studies on me, and I was admitted to a clinic for 3 days. The doctors who treated me at that clinic explained to me that there was no specialist who could treat my condition, and they referred me to Santo Domingo. When they gave me the medical discharge to go to Santo Domingo, I stayed at my cousin's house for 2 days while I prepared for the trip. I remember that day I had a relapse and my whole family thought I was gone because I had no pills and I didn't react. No matter how many times the doctors injected me, no matter how many times they called me, I didn't answer. They had to go out in an emergency with me in a neighbor's truck and take me to 3 medical centers in Nagua, and I didn't react. They put me on medication and left me for observation at the clinic. The next day, I woke up normal, asking what had happened to me because I didn't remember anything. Days later, I had to leave my daughter with my cousin and go to Santo Domingo to continue treating myself with other doctors. In Santo Domingo, I spent 8 days at the Marcelino Vélez Santana Hospital, better known as the Herrera Hospital. Those 8 days that I spent in that hospital with a lot of suffering, a lot of pain. I became depressed. I lost a lot of weight. I thought I was going to die without being able to see my daughter. Thank God my mother and my sister were always with me those days. It was not a very good experience. The food was not good. Many doctors always came to see me. They always had to inject me in my belly so that my blood wouldn't clot. My right arm remained bandaged very tight so that no more clots would form, and that gave me a lot of pain. I had to go through many studies, ambulance trips, everything was like a movie. For me, it was something very painful because I had always been a healthy girl who never got sick beyond a chest pain or a simple flu. Going from the simplest thing to something so exaggeratedly worrying was very, very shocking for me. I remember that the day I was discharged from that hospital, the doctor wanted to operate me on because I had a bone that was constricting my veins and causing blood clots to form. I was very scared because I didn't want to have to go through surgery again after my cesarean section to have my daughter. I remember telling my doctor that I didn't want to have surgery because I was very afraid and I wanted to see my daughter because I hadn't seen her for 8 days. She discharged me with the promise that I will return to the hospital for surgery. Since that day, 7 years have passed and I have not had surgery. I never got sick from it again, and that calms me down a little bit, but yes, it was a very heartbreaking experience for me. I have developed other health conditions, but nothing's like that sad experience. That 4th of July was something very traumatic and marked a before and after in my life. Sometimes I hear the stories or remember everything that happened, and I can't believe that something like this has happened in my life. That's why I always say that we should always thank God for everything.